Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about how to get clear on what it is that you want. This way, when you ask Source, God, the Infinite, for your desire, you're able to ask from a place of confidence. So the points that we'll be covering today are as follows. The first thing we're going to cover is the importance of the beginning stage of any manifestation process and why the beginnings are so important. The second thing is the importance of knowing your destination, knowing where you're headed. The third thing is we're going to talk about the blockages that get in the way of you asking for what it is that you want. The next thing we'll be covering is we'll be answering the question, if anything is possible, how big can my ask be? We'll also be covering the power of why I want what I want. We'll be discussing why humility leads to miracles, and we'll be discussing how do I know if what I'm asking for is actually good for me. And finally, we'll be covering why you don't always get what you want. So let's jump in. Here goes. The potential of everything exists in the beginning stage of any creation. It's all about the beginning. In fact, the Jewish prayer book has a line in Hebrew that says, Sof ma'aseh machshavat tchila, which translates to the end result exists in the initial thought. We learn that God created the world, and when He did, He had a clear purpose, an outcome in mind. It wasn't for nothing. And since our Jewish sages teach that we're all made in what's called a tselem Elokim, in the image of God, this must mean that you have within you a particle of God, which means that you have the potential to create as well. In fact, Judaism teaches that your prayers and your intentions can change the world, like actually. To begin any manifestation process, you must get clear about what you want to co-create. And I use the language of manifesting and co-creating interchangeably because I'm very clear that this manifesting game is a partnership with God. It's a co-creative endeavor. We can't do this alone. In fact, God is the one manifesting. Our job is to simply surrender and get out of the way. But that's a chat for another time. So maybe there's one specific desire that you want to manifest. Maybe there are many things that you're open to receiving. Or maybe you just want to feel better. Whatever it is that you want to focus on is totally fine, as long as it makes you feel really good when you think about it. So I emphasize the importance of clarity here. And you might be asking, okay, Ayelet, I get it. But why is clarity really that important? So take this metaphor. Imagine two captains, each on their own ship. One has a destination in mind, and the other is going wherever the wind takes him. The one with a clear destination in mind, with a goal, more often than not, arrives safely, while the other one ends up shipwrecked off some island in the middle of nowhere. If you want to see to it that your goals manifest, part of the process is becoming super clear about what it is that you want. As Earl Nightingale says, you become what you think about, and all the more so when you think in clear terms. So he says that if you take 100 men who start even at the age of 25, all of them believe that they're going to become successful. Now, by the time they are 65, only 1 will be rich, 4 will be financially independent, 5 will still be working, and 54 will be broke. So out of 100, only 5 succeed? What happened here? Why such a large disparity between what these men intended to do when they were 25 and what they actually became? The man or woman who works towards a predetermined goal and knows where he or she is going, no matter how big or how small the goal is, that individual with a clear destination has a greater chance of their desire manifesting. In fact, our Jewish sage, Rabbi Nachman, shared that had he had known from the beginning who he would later become, it would have been so much easier to get there. In the book Path of the Just, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto teaches that the foundation of good action and the root of true service of God is for a person to know their goal in this world. But now you're probably saying, all right, I get it, that sounds great, but how do I figure out what it is that I want? So Rebbetzin Zipporah Heller Gottlieb says that once you know what you don't want to be, you are that much closer to becoming who you do want to be. So if you think back to all the experiences that haven't worked out for you, never see it as a waste of time. All of these experiences should serve as arrows pointing you closer to clarity. This is all part of the clarification process. So no matter how big or how small your goal, become resilient at getting clear about what you want and what might be getting in the way. We'll discuss a little bit about how to do that today. So talking about what might be getting in the way, right? Like that's the elephant in the room. So let's talk about it. Like I mentioned earlier, sometimes in order to understand more clearly what we want, God sends us tests to teach us what is not right for us. Now, one of the greatest tests or blockages that get in the way of asking for what you want is the belief that you're not worthy of it. The greatest challenge for most of us in believing that I am worthy is believing that I am worthy right now. Maybe you think that there's a prerequisite that's necessary before I become worthy to have my desire manifest. Maybe you're thinking, yeah, that's great, I want something, but it's not available to me now. It's something like maybe in 10, 20, 50 years from now. So many of us have either consciously created or unconsciously allowed or adapted from others, right? We spoke about this last time. We adopt beliefs, stories that are not true. And so we create a long list of worthiness prerequisites. Now, these prerequisites can look anything like, I'll be worthy when I lose 20 pounds. Or I'll be worthy when I get married, or when I get or stay sober. I'll be worthy when everyone thinks I'm a good parent, or when I make a living selling my art or my craft or my music. I'll be worthy when I can hold my marriage together, or when my parents finally approve, or if he asks me out on a second date, right? I'll be worthy when I can get my act together and make it look like I've got everything under control. What co-creating your reality with your higher power means is that you are worthy right now, right this second. You are worthy of living a life you love in this very moment. So again, you are worthy right now. Not if, not when, but right now. You were made, like I shared, in Tselem Elokim, in the image of God. right? If you lived as though you were the child of the ultimate king and you really walked this world with that consciousness, how could you ever think that you are lesser than? We all come into this world with our plethora of obstacles, of challenges, right? But that's what part of this game is about, right? So you are worthy regardless of your flaws or downfalls. Now, the mind is a garden. So think of it as though you are the farmer, right? Your mind is what we said is a garden. So the mind doesn't care what you plant, right? If you plant thoughts of, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I will only be worthy when, then that's what will manifest, is more scenarios that reaffirm and prove to you that belief that you're not worthy. But if you begin to plant thoughts in your mind that I am worthy right now, then that's what will manifest. More scenarios that prove and reaffirm your worthiness. Now, if you've gotten this far and you're still like, yeah, Ayelet, I'm just not sure what I should be asking for, just know that you're not alone. And this next part is for you. So I've created what I call the manifestation ladder. So imagine rungs on a ladder, okay? Once you have that visual in mind, let's proceed. See, because most of us live in the realm of what's realistic, okay, to go from making an income of, let's say, $1,000 per month to $10,000 per month might not be possible for you right now because your subconscious does not necessarily believe that that's possible. So your job is to determine what is the next rung on your manifestation ladder. What is one level up from what you're currently living, right? Let's take a weight loss metaphor, for example. Take someone who is 200 pounds and wants to lose 50 pounds a month. That wanting to lose 50 pounds a month is nice, but that's a huge leap and it's not healthy or sustainable. And chances of them keeping that weight off is slim. I mean, you know the curse of the lottery, right? Most people who win lose everything before they can even say, I've won. So your task is to break down your ask into stages. Simply ask yourself, what's the next rung? And that might mean if you don't have clarity on what it is you want right now, that next rung for you can look like, Dear God, please help me manifest clarity, guidance. That's also an ask. So you must be comfortable living in two worlds at the same time. This is part of the paradox, and life is full of paradoxes, right? So be comfortable living in the world of infinite possibility. Anything is possible, and anything can be possible right now. But the other possibility, the other mindset is the world of what's realistic for me right now. And hold space for both of those cognitions. Now, get clear about what the next rung on your manifestation ladder is, and it will be different for everyone. But this is step one. The next thing we need to discuss is your why. Why do I want what I want? So once you've determined what the next rung on your ladder is, ask yourself that question. Why do I want this thing? Judaism teaches us that you are your will. And your will, your desires, are often what you think about throughout your day. In fact, the Baal Shem Tov, the Jewish sage, teaches that where your thoughts are, that's where you are. And since we've already learned that your thoughts have the ability to manifest into reality, it's important to get clear about why you want what you want. If you're asking for a BMW, ask yourself why I want that BMW. Is it to impress my friends? Is it to attract women? Is it to make myself feel good about myself? Or is it because this is what will make me feel accomplished in life? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't want beautiful things, but if you want a BMW for reasons like feeding your ego, ask yourself again, why do I want to feed my ego? A friend of mine made a promise to God that if he got a nice car, he would use it to do many acts of chesed, of kindness. He promised that he would give rides to anyone who needed one. Now, that's a high level of service, and that is a strong why. Yes, he wanted a nice car, but more than that is he wanted to have this vehicle to be able to serve on a higher scale. Now, the Baal Shem Tov also teaches that the highest level of asking for something is when it is filled with a why of service to others. Now, being of service to others doesn't mean you have to become the next savior of our generation, the next Moshe Rabbeinu. It can mean wanting a beautiful home so you can fill your table with guests, right? It can mean getting married so that I can give to another person, or have kids so I can give to kids and raise the next generation of manifestors, of thinkers, of givers. Now, one of the most important points that we must cover when it comes to asking for your desire is humility. Once you develop a manifestation mindset and you begin to see miracles become your norm, it's easy to get caught up in ego thoughts. I created this. I'm so powerful. Look what I manifested. Look how great I am. If you want to manifest things that are good for you and of the highest good for humanity, you must always walk with the understanding that God is the ultimate creator. He is the one doing the manifesting. Your job is to surrender. Your job is to get out of your own way, to quiet the mind from all of its chitter chatter. The chitter chatter that wants to convince you that God can't or doesn't want to give to you, God forbid. Moshe Rabbeinu became the leader of the Jewish people. He manifested, so to speak, the Jewish people leaving Egypt, leaving exile. And the reason that Moshe Rabbeinu was chosen for this massive task is because he was known for being the most humble man who ever lived. Now, if you're still thinking to yourself, yes, Ayelet, that's all good, but what if I don't fully understand this concept of humility? How big of a role am I actually playing in manifesting? If God is the one manifesting, why do I need to do anything at all? Well, you can think of it in this way. Parents want to give to their children. It's in our nature. So imagine a boy turns 16 and it's time for him to get a new car. So this boy goes to his dad and he says, Dad, you owe me a new car. I've been getting around by foot and by bike for too many years now. I'm fed up. I deserve a car. Where's my car? What do you think this dad will say to his son? All right, son, you want a car? Sure. Go get a job. Get yourself a car. But imagine scenario B. Boy goes to his dad and says, Dad, I know you work so hard to support us, and I appreciate everything that you do. Now, my 16th birthday is coming up, and I understand if it's not possible right now, but perhaps you'll consider helping me out with my first car? Thanks, I really appreciate it. Chances are this dad is going to do everything in his power to help out his son. Similarly, think of the infinite, of God as source, as your father. Only this Father really can do anything because he is limitless. And the more humility you express by acknowledging that God is the creator and the ultimate giver, the better your relationship with him becomes and the more he wants to give. Humility is a key component to manifesting. So now you might be thinking, okay, I get it, but how do I know if I'm getting what's actually good for me? So let's stay with this parent-child metaphor for now. I have a son, a baby, whose name is Aviel. And I want to give to Aviel unconditionally. But am I going to give Aviel something that is bad for him? If he wants a sharp kitchen knife, of course I'm not going to give it to him. He can cry and cry all he wants. But me as the responsible adult who sees things from a bigger perspective, who sees things with clarity, will not give him something that isn't good for him. That said, there is a fine line between how much I give and how much I refrain from giving, regardless of how frustrated he gets. For example, when Aviel was just starting to learn to crawl, I would see him on one side of the room, on his belly, struggling to get to a toy that was 5 feet in front of him. Now, me, as the parent, knew that he was fully capable of getting to the toy. So I would see him struggle a bit and he would fuss and he would look at me for assistance. And I would smile back and I would give him encouragement and I would continue to watch him struggle a bit. Does this make me a terrible parent? I hope not. What I was doing was teaching him a valuable life lesson. It's in the obstacle that we break free from our old limitations. The more that Aviel had to work on his own to reach the toy, the better he got at crawling. Had I handed him the toy every single time, he would have grown up with the false belief that there is no struggle in the world, which would have made for a really rude awakening when he grows up. Sometimes God doesn't give you what you want right away. Not because he's evil and not because he doesn't love you, but because there's a divine lesson made just for you, hidden within that obstacle. And that is what you're meant to awaken to. The transformation that is available in moments of perceived challenges. It's the going from not crawling to crawling, from crawling to walking, from walking to running. There's always a transition that involves a certain degree of obstacle, of struggle. And remember, obstacles are reroutes to a better destination. And just because God is saying not now does not mean that it's a not ever. You are constantly being rerouted to being in alignment with Source. And none of your prayers go unanswered. In fact, there's a prayer box in the sky, in the ether, that holds all of our prayers. So remember, yes, God is the ultimate manifester. And yes, God does know what is good for you. But the power of asking with clarity is what being here in this human physical body is all about. This is a co-creative endeavor. If God wanted this to be all about him just giving and giving, without us playing an active role, he wouldn't have needed to create us in the first place. Getting clear about your ask sends clear signals to the universe to be able to respond accordingly. So remember, if you want to start co-creating a life that you love, get clear about what it is that you want. And if you're like, Ayelet, I'm still not sure what I want after all this, then also remember that asking for clarity and direction, asking God for that clarity and direction, is just as much of a powerful ask as any. Thanks so much for joining me today. Have a great week and happy manifesting.